Hey guys, welcome to our next video essay here on Skyring. Today we're going to be talking about one of our favorite shows in recent memory, Motherland Fort Salem. So, if you haven't seen this show yet, strap yourself in because we are going to give you 22 reasons why you need to watch this show right now.
You're my witches!
Number 1. Amalia Holm. Amalia Holm is a Scandinavian actress who plays the character SCYLLA RAMSHORN in Motherland Fort Salem. This will come as no surprise to existing fans of the show, but the show is literally worth watching just for her performance alone. She steals every scene she's in and is, in our opinion, one of the greatest young actresses that we've seen in recent years. I have no doubt that as the show gets more popular with future seasons and wider distribution on Disney Plus in international countries, Amalia's star will shine brighter and brighter, and one day she is bound to become a global superstar.
They have lobster.
Number 2. SCYLLA RAMSHORN. Well, okay, we're kind of cheating because we're talking about Amalia Holm again, but believe me, the character she portrays, SCYLLA, is an absolute highlight of the show. While there are many strong female leads and supporting characters in the show, none of them shine quite as brightly as SCYLLA RAMSHORN, who stole our hearts along with Rael's the moment she appeared in front of those twisters in Fort Salem. The more we learn about this character as the show progresses, the more we empathize and even end up rooting for her, despite her questionable loyalties. Seriously, how could you not love her?
Shouldn't you be in training? Shouldn't you?
Number 3. The great character development. So, a key part of what makes a good story is character growth. Without giving away too many spoilers, those that really stood out for us were Tally, Abigail, Anacostia, Alder, and of course, SCYLLA. Tally starts out as a naive girl with a strong sense of what is right and wrong. But as she finds herself in situations that threaten her very worldly beliefs, we see her start to question herself and those around her, and grow to find faith and love again. As for Abigail, she begins the story living in the shadow of her family's legacy, and we get to see her learn to make decisions for herself and become empowered enough to forge her own path with her unit. For Anacostia, she goes from somebody who always follows the book to somebody who isn't afraid to break some rules to do what's necessary. General Alder starts off with a strong exterior persona, but as the story progresses, we get to see how her interactions with the young witches begin to expose her own inner vulnerabilities. And of course, SCYLLA goes from being somebody filled with hate in her heart to somebody who is willing to do anything to fight for love. As for Rael, well, let's just say she definitely has a lot more room for development. It feels like she's very much tormented and trapped in her own mind that causes her to make irrational decisions every other episode. But we see a lot of potential in her character and look forward to seeing her character develop in future seasons. Speaking of Rael, that brings us to reason number 4, Taylor HICKSON. While Rael might leave a lot to be desired in the character growth department, Taylor HICKSON on the other hand is an absolute gem. Upon encountering her character, we initially thought that the scar on her face was part of Rael's story. It was only later on when we learned about the horrific accident she suffered in real life that led to the injury, that we gained a newfound appreciation for Taylor HICKSON and her amazing strength and bravery. We are overwhelmingly glad that she was able to land the role of Rael in Motherland Fort Salem after everything she's been through. And the scar on her face just adds an extra charm to her character and makes her feel so awesomely badass. Number 5. The action. This show is full of high-octane action sequences that are bound to get your blood pumping. The witches all use weapons known as scourges, which are inspired by the same weapons Chinese farmers used to defend themselves with when they couldn't afford guns or heavy artillery. These rope daggers allow for stunts that feel so fresh and unique, and it only gets better the more witches there are on screen at any given moment. Number 6. The telling of an alternate history. In Motherland Fort Salem, we get to see how the world would have turned out if witches had been accepted by mankind during the Salem witch trials, joining the US military and eventually revolutionizing militaries all over the globe, turning modern society on its face as we know it. We see how different the world is when it is led by witches, and it is absolutely fascinating. If you've ever wondered how the world would be like if governments and militaries were all run by strong women, then this is the show for you.
I forbid your intervention in this matter.
Madam President, I must...
Enough!
Number 7. World building. There's so much world building in Motherland Fort Salem that the world feels so real and lived in. No matter how fantastical it might seem sometimes, from how the witches stomp their feet in applause instead of clapping their hands like regular people, to how different American society is with a black female US president and the US military general being the most famous witch in the world, we get to see all the effects of a witch-led matriarchal society, and it is just so intriguing. Not to mention the stigma regular people in this world have towards witches. The way the scourges the witches used are created, the creepy beaties, the way the spree burn their faces to transform their looks, and even Fort Salem itself. Everything in this world has been constructed in a way that fits together so perfectly that it allows audiences to suspend their disbelief and just live in the world of the show when they're watching it. It is pretty magical. Number 8. The mashing of the military and fantasy genres. One thing this show does undoubtedly well is fuse the best elements of the fantasy and military genres together. Sergeant Anacostia Quatermain just feels like that typical strict drill instructor you'll find in the military, and the training the witch cadets go through is about as tough as you would expect. Couple that with all the fantastical and magical elements of the show, and you have a sure recipe for success. One way we like to describe this show is that it is basically a badass version of Harry Potter, in all the best ways you could possibly think of. Number 9. The excellent tension building in the storytelling. While the show starts off a little slow as we get introduced to each of the characters and their motivations in the early episodes, the story swiftly goes into full gear from the 5th episode onwards and leaves you at the edge of your seat at every moment in the subsequent episodes. This all builds up to a jaw-droppingly unpredictable ending that will undoubtedly leave you clamoring for more. Number 10. Blue balloons. After you have watched the series, I assure you that you will never see blue balloons the same way again. The way the show is able to make something as seemingly innocent looking as a blue balloon become a symbol of death and mass destruction is nothing short of incredible. The symbolism behind the blue balloons being bombs filled with the hate of the spree is certainly one to get your mind thinking, and it will surely haunt you for the rest of your days.
The spree are here! There was a balloon!
Number 11. Relatable themes. No matter how fantastical the show can often get, it still excels at highlighting youth-centric themes like the coming of age, family expectations, search for purpose and identity, friendship, grief, and sacrifice. As a science fiction and fantasy story, it transports audiences into a new world that strips away the familiar while maintaining a clear focus on the narrative. What truly hooks the audience in is not the magic, but the human conditions and the characters we identify with. One of my favorite themes is the one of sisterhood, not just within a unit, but amongst the whole division of witches. It serves as a good reminder to all of us that despite our differences and past hurts, forgiveness, acceptance, and empathy aren't weaknesses, but strengths that we can decide to embrace if we want to be better versions of ourselves. This show is filled with powerful messages like that, and that really allows it to transcend from simply being a TV show to being a work of art that is both deep and contemplative.
What's up, shitbird?
Number 12. The diversity of the cast. We have actors and actresses of many races and ethnicities who come from a whole slew of countries such as the United States, Canada, South Africa, Belgium, Sweden, and so much more. This greatly affects the overall sound and look of the show as it creates a vibrant palette of characters that make the world feel universal and easy to find a place in. Anything that helps audiences to connect with the story and its characters more is always a good thing.
Sexy weird. Like us.
Yeah, that it is.
Number 13. Reinventing the idea of a witch. When you think of witches, you probably think of wrinkly, green-skinned old hags flying around on broomsticks, cackling maniacally. But that couldn't be further from how witches are portrayed in Motherland Fort Salem. You see, witches aren't creepy old hags here. Instead, they are badass, powerful, grounded women who aren't afraid to use their powers to fight for their people and what they believe in with every fiber of their being. They are brave warriors and protectors of humanity, and it makes us wish that we had witches like these in the real world we live in as well.
You're my witches.
Number 14, the varied backstories. Because each of these 3 leads have such different backstories and experiences that turn them into the people they are, you never have to worry about any of them being too similar to one another. While they all suffered through various forms of brokenness in the past, seeing them grow and learn to overcome their fears along the journey is absolutely satisfying. We get to see Abigail challenge her fear of not living up to her family's legacy, Tally struggle to accept the true reality of the witch army against her original expectations and beliefs, and Raelle search for meaning in her life and her place in the world. These multiple goals and challenges faced by each of these characters dig deeper into their motivations and culminates in a final resolution that is so totally worth it.
Our ancient enemy has returned!
Number 15, the magic, otherwise known as work in the Motherland Fort Salem universe. We get to explore the idea of voices being trained and used as magical weapons for both offense and defense. And it is just so fascinating and unique. Not to mention, the healing incantations are pretty much lifted from the Bible, which I totally think is cool as well.
Ask and it shall be given you. Seek and ye shall find. Knock and it shall be opened unto you.
Number 16, the music. They say that if you can recognize the soundtrack after a bar of the song, its creators have done a good job. And well, the spree theme lives up to that expectation perfectly. You can't help but think of the spree and their blue balloons whenever you hear it. And it just creates an atmosphere and expectation of impending death and destruction. Speaking of music in the show, I absolutely love the cover of This Land Is Your Land by Milk on the show's official soundtrack. While the song is not featured in the show itself, it was created for the series and has such a lovely arrangement. It does so well by the original folk song, and if you haven't listened to it yet, you need to do it, like, right now. Well, okay, not right now, but right after you're done watching this video. Number 17, a powerful setup. Season 1 of Motherland Fort Salem was such a perfect setup for the various paths the show could go towards in the future. The way the story ends in the inaugural season leaves the door open for a wide range of paths the show could possibly go on in the following seasons, and we absolutely can't wait to see where the story will take us. We definitely need SCYLLA though, a lot more of her. Pretty please?
I confess! I am a witch!
Number 18, the dark themes. This show tackles dark themes like suicide and depression in such a meaningful way that doesn't make light of them, but instead uses the gravity and importance of those themes to ground the show in such a meaningful way. Some scenes can get really dark and haunting as a result, but we can really appreciate how the show's creators aren't afraid to address such topics. Some might consider them taboo or just too on the nose, but telling stories about such dark themes is one way to address and create awareness about them. And it can be a good thing, as it serves as a place to open up healthy conversations about the things that we struggle with as an individual, a community, or globally. Sometimes, just by knowing that we are not facing something alone and seeing a character undergo a similar journey can provide the encouragement we need or just a different perspective to create empathy. Number 19, a rich, detailed world. The show creator Elliot Lawrence has mentioned multiple times in interviews that he's been working on the story for Motherland Fort Salem for over a decade, even before the first episode was even produced. And that could not be more apparent. From the world building mentioned earlier to everything that we have yet to even see, there is endless potential for the future of the series and the rich world that has been created here. Lawrence even mentioned that different countries will have different forms of magic. And my goodness, I would love nothing more than to see that, so bring on season 2 already.
Set akalaba. Jurime kat inji. Amboy.
Number 20. The sound design. There is a unique charm in the way the show uses real voices to recreate sound effects and vice versa. We've always enjoyed the little details that the filmmakers put into creating a specific texture for the world that allows viewers to be more immersed. Even that subtle reverb you hear when a witch uses her power of suggestion adds that special flair to the show.
Listen.
Also, using real voices for the seed sounds made the magical effects of the voices feel a lot more believable. It might seem a little weird at the start, but once you take some time to get used to it, you'll appreciate how it truly is a fresh take on how magic is practiced. And it ties in really nicely with the idea of how harmonizing together makes the unit stronger, just like music. Number 21. A strong feminist message and identity. In case you couldn't already tell from all the posters and trailers you might have seen from Motherland Fort Salem, the show has a feminist identity through and through. In the world of Motherland Fort Salem, not only are the women placed in more traditionally male-centered positions, but the men also experience gender role reversals and are often portrayed in ways that would usually be considered more feminine. Coupled with a strong female-centric cast and characters, there is no doubt that this show is sure to be a hit for those looking for a show with a strong feminist message. And for those who aren't, don't worry, the show has plenty of action to keep you entertained for all 10 of its adrenaline-filled episodes. Number 22, last but not least, we absolutely love the mystery in the story. Every good show needs to tease the audience with questions that will leave them wanting more, and this show does that oh so perfectly. Without giving away too many spoilers, let's just say that we really want to know what the heck is going on with the mushrooms, and we really want to know where certain characters' true loyalties lie. Also, we would love to see more of General Alder's backstory. So many amazing and interesting things must have happened during the 300 plus years of her life, and we need to see them. We also can't wait for Rael to go full-on X-Men Jean Grey Phoenix mode. Elliot, if you're listening to this, please make that happen. Please. Thank you.
Thank you ever so much for lunch.
Well, we've once again reached the end of another one of our videos, guys. We hope all our fellow Switchers enjoyed this video, and feel free to drop a comment down below to show your love for Motherland Fort Salem. And if you can think of more reasons that weren't mentioned in this video, please do let us know in the comments as well. We can't wait for season 2, and we have no doubt that it's going to be magical. Thank you very much for watching, and may we meet again with Storm and Fury.